Hi guys, today we're going to read chapters 9, 10, and 11 in Finding Langston. Chapter 9. I found the letter came in the mail last week. Daddy been hiding it under his bed. I'm up late for school and Daddy left me behind. Usually we walk together to the end of the block, then he goes left for the L and I go right for school. Today I turned the apartment upside down looking for my key. I find 4 pennies fell out of Daddy's pocket and one of my old marbles I've been looking for. In a crack between the floorboards, I finally find the key. But while I'm looking under Daddy's bed, I see a shoebox pushed all the way into the corner. I know it isn't right, can hear Daddy's voice in my head saying, looking at something don't belong to you is just the same as stealing, a sin. Folks always say my daddy is a godly man, but he don't leave much room for things that ain't a sin. So even though I know it's a sin, I open the box and take a look. I see a couple of letters with the wiggly writing and other letters at the bottom tied with a ribbon. These don't have envelopes, just girly writing, smell like perfume. I'll go get those later, but first I open the letter I want. Dearest Henry, God's blessing on you in Langston. Hope you both are well in Chicago. Bet it's cold there now. Henry, I'm sorry to tell you Mama's doing poorly. Since she got that cold last month, she just can't seem to get right. Keep me up half the night coughing, not that I'm complaining. God has blessed me with the strength to carry on in good times and bad. We sure appreciate the money you've been sending, but with her cough getting worse, I may need a little extra, something extra to get her to the doctor if you have it to spare. Tell Langston be good for his daddy. Prayerfully yours, Lena. Grandma is sick? I never seen my grandma sick a day in my life. I barely saw Grandma sit down, let alone take to bed. Mama said that was because she was used to taking care of herself and Daddy after Daddy's daddy died. Since then, she had to be a mama and a daddy. A man and a woman, I guess. She cooked just as good as she farmed. Sundays after services seemed like half the church would come by for supper. Grandma had a long table, and she'd lay out dish after dish on her old lace tablecloth. After the ham, macaroni and cheese, fried okra, biscuits, green beans swimming in butter, and sweet tea, Mama and Aunt Lena cleared the table and brought out the pies. Grandma sat at the head telling stories. When Mama took sick, was Grandma's came and tended to her when me and Daddy couldn't. Treated Mama like a newborn baby. Washing her, feeding her, changing the sheets when she wet herself, and at night after Grandma cooked our dinner and cleaned up too, she sat by the bed brushing and plaiting Mama's hair and singing songs so sweet my eyes filled with water. She loved Mama near as much as me and Daddy. God bless me with another child I didn't have to birth or burp, she'd say and laugh. She knew Mama's family before Mama was even born. Her people lived down the road till they passed when Mama was still young. I'm so late now, I'm gonna get sent to the office. I put the key in my shoe and raced down the steps to school. The principal, Mr. Freeman, is talking to a teacher when I run into the office for a late pass, and he just waves me on to class. I slip into my seat, trying to quiet my breathing so Mrs. Robbins don't turn around from the chalkboard. Between the letter and being late, I barely noticed that Lyman didn't come to school. Means I can take my time going to the library. Clem and Nero barely look at me as I walk through the schoolyard. On the way to the library, I notice the trees in the sidewalk have leaves that are just starting to turn yellow. The same yellow I watch from my bedroom back home every year when the weather started to turn. In the spring, the smell of white blossoms made Mama smile, and on a hot Alabama day, you could almost hide from the sun under its branches. Every year, when the first flowers showed up, Mama would cut off a few branches and put them in water in a mason jar. Sit them right in the middle of the kitchen table. So we don't have to go outside to smell springtime, she'd laugh. Daddy said she was looking at too many of those white women's magazines, but I thought they looked real pretty. Think he did too. We both loved how white blossoms on a branch could make her so happy. Downstairs in the library, I plop my book on the librarian's desk. Finish early. I want to take out more, I tell her. She laughs. That's fine. Here, she points. The return slot is there. Just put them in there and go check out more books. Thanks, I mumble, shamed again to not know yet how the library works. You have any books on trees, I ask. Right over there in the nonfiction section. Try the 580 call number, she says. Don't know what nonfiction means or if there are really 580 books on trees, but I look anyhow. I walk up and down the rows and then I see one book and a lot more about trees. All kinds of trees, too. I never knew there were so many. I take one of the tree books down from the shelf and go to the table by the window. I look through the pictures for a magnolia tree and find one, right to the middle of the book. A big color picture, smooth and shiny. I add another Langston Hughes book on top of the Magnolia book and pull my card out of my satchel and wait for the librarian to thunk a stamp in my books. Chapter 10. I'm in Alabama under the shade of a magnolia with red ants crawling up my trouser legs and the buzz of gnats swarming my head. The sun is hot, but under the branches it feels almost cool. Mama sits on the porch, fanning away flies. She laughs when she sees me, and Langston? I look up at Mrs. Robinson's bony knees. Langston, the bell rang 5 minutes ago, she says. Time to come inside. Sorry, ma'am, I didn't hear it, I mumble. Well, if you put that book down, you might, she says sharp. What are you reading anyway? She asks, walking ahead into the school. I found a book in the library about magnolia trees, just like the ones back in. It's time to focus on school now, Langston, and not trees. And you're not in the South anymore. You're a smart boy, but you need to focus on doing well here in Chicago. Yes, ma'am, I say. We can hear the classroom from down the hall. Without Mrs. Robinson in the room, they're loud and horsing around. When I walk in, it gets quiet. I walk to my seat. Happen to you, country boy? The boy in the desk behind me asks. Scared to come back in, I guess, laughs Lyman. Quiet, class, Mrs. Robin yells. Time to get back to work. Let's get our history textbooks open to page 65, please. At the end of the day, I'm walking my usual fast leaving the school, pushing past all the kids in the schoolyard, and I just about make it to the fence when I see him. He's right there at the sidewalk waiting. Ain't going to be no getting home in a hurry now to read before Daddy gets home. Spent all this time hating being alone, and now all I want is the quiet to look at my books. Plus, I got a box of letters under Daddy's bed needs looking at. But Lyman ain't interested in letters and books. Lyman is interested in Langston. So when he starts his stuff, I tell him, leave me alone. Yell it right in his face. Lyman is so shocked he don't say nothing at first. That is, till Ebro and Clem start laughing. He told you, Lyman, they chant. When he sees me sort of smile and trying to keep walking, his fist hits my mouth so hard I near think my head will break in two. Fight! Fight! I hear everyone yelling. This ain't what I want, but Lyman's wound up. Before he swings again, one of the teachers who's supposed to be watching us yells, Enough! Red-faced, he stands with his hands on his hips. Looks like he's ready to snatch us both up. Go on home now, he shouts to the crowd as everyone begins walking away. Lyman leans over, whispering in my ear. See you tomorrow, country boy. Time to get to Wabash. I've wiped most of the blood from my lip. But I can feel it getting big and know Daddy's going to be mad. Daddy's always wanting me to turn the other cheek till I ain't got another cheek to turn. I'm digging the key out of the shoe when I hear Miss Fulton's door open behind me. I pretend I don't hear. Langston, she says. She does know my name. Ma'am, I say, not wanting to turn till I can wash off my lip. You hear me talking to you? She asks. Yes, ma'am, I say, still not turning, still digging for my key. She walks over and pulls at my shoulder. When I'm talking to you, She stops. What happened to your lips? She asks. Oh, nothing, ma'am, just horsing around with some boys at school. Don't like lying, but there ain't no way I'm talking to her about much of anything. You're going to need to put something on that, she says. Come with me. I follow her into her apartment. Sit there, she says, and points to a chair. She goes to the sink. First, she dabs at my lip with a wet cloth. Then she pours a little something from a bottle on the shelf and dabs that on my lip. Ow, I yell. Burns. Just a little, but it will keep it from getting infected. Thanks, Miss Fulton, I say, getting up to leave. I gotta be getting home now, before Dad gets in. She stares at me, head tilted to the side like she's trying to decide something serious. Well, okay then, she says finally. In the apartment, I go to the table and take out the tree book, but now I can't see Mama on the porch or the ants crawling up my legs, just see Lyman in here, Errol and Clem laughing. Tomorrow's going to be worse than today. I close the book and take out my school books. I can hear the slow thump of Daddy's feet up the steps. Then I hear Miss Fulton's door open across the hall and Daddy's step stops. Stop. I can hear them talking, but not so good. I get up and listen closer at the door. They talk so long I go back to the table and my books. Finally, I hear Daddy's key in the door. Hi, Daddy, I say, head in my books, not looking up. Son, he says. He puts a greasy sack on the table. Picked up chicken from a place on the corner. I stand to get to the plates, but Daddy grabs my shoulder, turns my head to him. What happened? He asks, looking at my lip. I'm tired and my lip is hurting and I hate Lyman. And the tree book ain't good to me no more, and I miss my mama, but I can't say any of those things, so I just let the water go, one big drop after the next. Daddy sits me down and pulls up the other chair close. Chapter 11. Daddy takes a gray, linty handkerchief from his pocket. Wipe your eyes, he says. I wipe, but the tears keep coming. We sit quiet, looking everywhere but at each other. Finally, I say, I want to go back to Alabama. Can't do that, son, Daddy says. Our home is here now. This ain't my home, I say before thinking. Daddy doesn't stand for any backtalk, but he sits quiet. Langston, Daddy sighs. This is our chance for something better. Alabama was my home too, but after your mama passed. Daddy looks like he's choking, then starts again. After your mama passed, I knew I couldn't stay. For me, Alabama is her and us. Without her, ain't nothing left for me there. Fast as they started, my tears stop, and I can finally look up at Daddy. I hand him back his handkerchief and he dabs at his eyes hard. Every year me and your mama worked, seems like we fell deeper in debt to Mr. Clayton. Getting out was the only way to get ahead. Me and your mama heard a lot of folks talk about up north. A man could provide for his family without always scrapping and bowing. Your mama wanted to come north, something bad. She didn't want you working a plot. We were just waiting for the right time, I guess. Then it was too late. I was lucky to get my job down at the plant. Lucky folks here still want to hire a colored man, with all the soldiers coming back. I ain't got to spend my days yes sirring and no sirring. Just do the work and collect my check at the end of the week. With enough to help out back home, too. Helps me hold my head just a little bit higher. You understand what I'm saying? I nod. We gotta make the best of this, for your mama. She'd be proud of you going to school and me making a way. But don't you miss Grandma and Aunt Lena and being back in... He don't let me finish. I'm planning on sending for them as soon as I can, he says. As soon as I can get a bigger place, some more money saved. Hearing that makes my heart beat a little faster, thinking about Grandma and Aunt Lena and my cousins coming to Chicago. Daddy stands. Let's get started on dinner before it gets cold, he says. But I ain't got no appetite thinking about Lyman and tomorrow. I hear you had some trouble today at school, big mouth, Miss Fulton. Wasn't nothing really, I say, pretending to eat. Just horsing around, and I slipped. You know, lying is a sin, Daddy says. Yes, sir. Go on and tell me what happened. Daddy reaches for more chicken. I take a deep breath. There's a boy named Lyman. He's real mean. Calls me country boy. Country boy? Dad laughs with his mouth full. I don't see what's funny. Lyman and his friends. Friends? Yeah, Errol and Clem. They always on me, too. They say my overalls is country in the way I talk. Today he punched me when I told him to leave me alone. Daddy looks like he's doing some serious thinking. He says tomorrow he's gonna finish what he started. Again from Daddy. What you do when he hit you, he asks. Kept walking, I say. Daddy's asking more questions than he's giving answers, so I ask, what do you think I should do? Bible says turn the other cheek, Daddy says. I knew that was coming, but I just nod like it's the first time I heard it. Daddy's washing up the dishes when we hear a knock on the door. Both of us surprised, 'cause ain't no one ever knocked on our door before. Who is it, Daddy asks. It's Pearl, Henry. Who is Pearl? Daddy opens the door and Miss Fulton is standing there holding 2 plates. I made some apple pie tonight and thought maybe you and Langston might like some. Why, thank you, Pearl. When did Daddy start calling her Pearl? He reaches for the plates. Like to come in for a minute, Daddy asks. Oh, no. I just wanted to drop those off. Figured you could both use a little something to sweeten your day. Thank you, Pearl. I'll get these plates back to you in the morning. No rush, Henry. Miss Fulton says. Didn't even know she could smile like that. Her teeth are so white and pretty they could light up a room. Daddy hands the plates to me and closes the door. We sit at the table and eat about some of the best apple pie I ever had. Me and Daddy's plates barely need washing, we scrape them so clean. Miss Fulton was right. This day really did need some sweetening. When me and Daddy leave for school in the morning, Daddy turns right instead to head of left to the L train. I'm going to walk you to school today, Daddy says. I barely slept last night thinking about Lyman. I thought about pretending I was sick, but seeing as I told Daddy all about yesterday wasn't no use. Daddy's walking fast. I know his boss down at the Maxwell Brothers plans will give him a hard time if he's too late. Daddy said they fired one man came in 2 days late in a row. Daddy takes the L in a bus to get to work, but he still gets there early every day. Don't believe in giving them one more excuse to knock a colored man down, Daddy says all the time. We walk through the schoolyard, almost empty. We go right up the front stairs, turn left inside, and Daddy walks into the principal's office. He tells me to wait outside. Time Daddy comes out, the hall is filled and emptied again. Go on to class, Daddy says. I'll see you at home later. I go on up to class and look around the room for Lyman. He sits all the way in the back, but his chair is empty. If Daddy got Lyman in trouble with the principal, it's going to be worse for me than before. I sit at my desk and look like I'm listening to Mrs. Robinson go on, just counting the minutes until 3 o'clock.